You call her stupid. You call her slow. You call her a meat machine with a heartbeat, standing in a field, chewing, staring at nothing. You are wrong. If that cow could talk, the first thing she would tell you is your name. Not the species, not human. Your actual face, filed away in a memory that can hold over 100 individuals, cow and person alike, for years. Everyone believes the same story about cattle. Docile, dumb, emotionally empty. A blank animal built for milk and beef, incapable of anything you'd call a thought. That story is comfortable. It's also a lie, and it survives for one simple reason. Nobody expects an industry to admit that the animal it profits from might actually be thinking, feeling, and remembering every single day of her life. Where does the myth come from? Mostly from distance. Most people have never stood next to a cow for longer than a photo. They see a big, slow-moving body and assume a big, slow-moving mind lives inside it. Farming language reinforces it. Cattle get called units. Herds get called stock. The vocabulary itself was built to strip away personality because it's easier to process an animal you've already decided isn't really there. Here's a question. If cows are just blank biological machines, why do dairy farmers already know their cows have best friends? Ask anyone who has worked a herd for years and they will tell you, without hesitation, which two cows always stand together, always eat together, always groom each other first. Researchers at the University of Northampton confirmed what farmers already knew. Cattle form close preferential bonds, and when those paired cows are separated, their heart rates spike and their stress hormones rise measurably higher than when they're separated from the herd in general. That is not the biology of an animal incapable of attachment. That is the biology of grief. And it gets stranger. Cows don't just recognize their friends. Neuroscientist Laurie Marino, reviewing decades of cattle cognition research, found that cows can distinguish familiar human faces from unfamiliar ones, and they remember specific people who have treated them well or badly, sometimes for years afterward. A farmer who is rough with cattle gets noticed. A farmer who is gentle gets noticed too. Cows keep score. Think about what that actually means. An animal you were told has no inner life is quietly running a mental ledger on every person who walks into its space. Now here's the part the industry really doesn't want circulating. Cows can solve problems, and when they solve one, their bodies react the way yours does when you win. In a study out of Cambridge, cattle were trained to press a lever to open a gate and access food. When they figured it out, their heart rate spiked and they kicked up their heels. A documented physical response researchers now call the eureka effect. That's not a reflex. That's the animal equivalent of punching the air after solving a puzzle. Cattle don't just complete tasks. They experience something like satisfaction when they do. Before we go further, if this is already rewriting what you thought you knew about the animal in the field down the road, that's the point of this channel. Hit like, drop a comment telling me which fact just changed your mind, and subscribe. Because we're about to get into the part of cow cognition that almost nobody talks about. So we know cows remember faces. We know they form real friendships. We know they feel something close to pride. What about fear, and what about the future? Cattle show something researchers call anticipatory behavior. In experiments led by Donald Broom at Cambridge, cows that were given a choice between an easy task and a harder one for a bigger reward showed measurable optimism or pessimism in their body language and heart rate, depending on how recent experiences had gone. An animal that had just had a good outcome approached new choices expectantly. An animal that had a bad outcome approached the same choice cautiously. That is a cow forming an expectation about a future she hasn't experienced yet, based on a past she remembers. That is not instinct. That is reasoning under uncertainty, the same basic skill you use every time you decide whether to trust something new based on what happened last time. And there's the emotional contagion piece, which might be the most unsettling for anyone who still wants to believe cattle are simple. Cows pick up stress from each other. If one animal in a herd becomes agitated during handling, others nearby show elevated heart rates and stress behaviors within seconds, even if nothing happened to them directly. That's not a chain reaction of instinct. That's empathy in its most basic biological form, the same mechanism that makes you tense up when someone next to you starts panicking. So what is a cow actually once you strip away the myth? She is an animal with a long memory for faces. She has friendships she grieves the loss of. She solves problems and her body celebrates the win. She reads the emotional state of the herd around her and absorbs it. She anticipates good and bad outcomes based on what's happened to her before. None of this is fringe science. This comes from Cambridge, from Northampton, from peer-reviewed cognition research spanning over a decade. The myth of the empty-headed cow was never built on evidence. It was built on convenience. Why does this matter to you, standing wherever you're standing right now, nowhere near a barn? Because the story we tell about an animal's mind shapes how we treat it. And that story has been wrong for generations. Every dumb animal joke, every offhand comment about cattle being mindless has been resting on outdated assumptions that the actual research quietly demolished years ago. If you've made it this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel is built for. Before the next video finds you, take 3 seconds and hit subscribe. And if one of these facts is going to live in your head rent-free tonight, tell me which one in the comments. It helps this channel more than you'd think, and it tells me exactly what to dig into next. So if cows could talk, what would they actually say? Not moo, not nothing. They'd say your name because they remember it. They'd say they miss their friend because they grieve one. They'd say they were proud in whatever language pride takes when you don't have words for it. They'd say they were afraid or hopeful, depending on what you taught them to expect from people like you. You called her stupid. You called her slow. You called her a meat machine with a heartbeat. She was listening the whole time, and she remembers exactly what you said.